Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and we're here today to talk about how 50 plus can leverage their way onto job and project networks. And we've been helping people do that for 15,000 years, it seems like, but it's actually only been 16 years. And I started working on networks, let's see, in the year 2000. So I've been working on these networks for now 23 years, helped myself onto the networks and then helped a lot of other people onto the networks. And, last week we had some problems with the screen freezing, and I was not able to do this session. But today I thought I had everything working, and I'm still seeing a frozen screen, but it looks like the audio is going out. So if you are on and can hear the audio, that would be great if you could actually, let me know that that is coming out and that you're hearing that. So very helpful. So there's a number of things about working in the virtual world. And to be clear, we're talking about working on online project networks like Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer.com, Guru.com. There are over 150 networks out there that you can work on. You can do jobs sitting there right at your kitchen table or in your home office and do those jobs anywhere in the world. And the question then becomes, what do you have to do that? And a lot of people say, well, gee, this should be this is just what I've done for my job. I've got lots of skills, so I ought to be able to pirouette into working online and doing the same kind of work I've been doing in my job and get paid the same kind of money I've been getting paid in my job. And nothing could be further from the truth. The good news is you can get paid in numbers comparable to what you're earning for your job, but you have to approach it as if you were a new employee in a new company. And a lot of people that go from employee to freelancer just don't get this part of it. If you were, let's say you're working in your job and you're in your 50s and you decide for whatever reason to leave that company and you go to another company, those of us that have done that find that it's a little tough sledding. If you work for a company like I did for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, something like that, you kind of know everybody. They know the quality of your work. You have a network of people within the company. You have a familiarity with their product line and their way of doing business. And when you get dropped into a new job, all those things are different. You kind of have to relearn those again. And there's a penalty you pay for being the new kid at a new company because you have to come up to speed on all of that. Well, the same is true on these online networks. And it's even different still because you're working remotely, you're delivering your work online. You have all kinds of reasons to do that. And there's an adjustment period of learning how to work online. Most of us that had jobs where we showed up in an office, or even if we had a home office, we had a routine down, a way of working, that kind of thing. And then, unfortunately, what came along was the pandemic, certainly, and everybody kind of got shoved into remote working. And for some people, that was a very good experience. And for some people, it was a terrible experience because they weren't prepared. They didn't have the tools they need. They didn't have maybe the serenity they need to do that kind of work. It's a whole another layer of stuff to think about to make sure the dog's not barking in the background or the doorbell's not ringing and you don't have to pick up and run to the store. So there's a lot going on there. And what we're going to talk about is the three most important things. And we're also going to go into some of the areas where there are some challenges. So the first thing I want to talk about is this whole idea of leveraging your experience and expertise. And what I've known for 20 years with my own freelance career, and what I know with the thousands of people I've helped over the last 16 years, is that most people over 50 have a lot more knowledge, expertise, resilience, think outside the box capability than most people working on freelance networks. And the main reason for that is they have decades of experience. They've been through this before. You know, if you look at the demographics of who's working as a freelancer, the over 50 crowd accounts for about 25%. Those are going to be your most knowledgeable, your most experienced workers. And then the other 75% are people in their teens, 20s, 30s, and some in their 40s, and they have nowhere near the experience. I was talking to somebody recently. They're 60 years old. They're in a job that they've been in, a career basically they've been in for 20 years. They've worked at 3 different companies, and they know the job backwards and forwards. They know the industry backwards and forwards. They got promoted several times in their career because they came up with some innovations in doing that job in that industry and that kind of thing. And you contrast that with somebody who's 30 years old, who, you know, equally smart, equally talented, but hasn't lived through that 30 years experience. And this is a blind spot that baby boomers have. So one of the things that we talk about, and especially when we do one-on-one coaching with somebody, or we do this in a workshop that we're doing, is we have people go through and look at the totality of their career. And we have a way to break it up so you don't have to kind of do it all at once, but you might go back and you know, go job by job. You know, I do this a lot. So, you know, I ask people, what was your first job? What was your next job after that? Sometimes they're a little hazy because some of those jobs run together after 30 or 40 years, but we get pretty much a good listing. And then we have a conversation, and this, you know, it can take anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending upon what the person's done and where they've been and how they've done it and that sort of thing. And so we have that conversation, and then we highlight things. And it's amazing. They start remembering places they worked that they completely forgot about. And the contributions that they made in those places were amazing. And so lots of good sort of, what would you say, productive stuff. I mean, I call this the phase where we help them remember who they are. They're usually much more talented, much more experienced, much more knowledgeable than they might think they are specifically today. So that's the gold mine. That's where the wealth of your skill set and experience is locked up. So it's worth taking the time to go thoroughly through that. The next thing is cultivating a strong online presence. And on these online networks, this is done by producing a good profile. Now, by way of explanation, a profile is to a degree like a resume, but it's completely different to a resume. It's 180 degrees. If the resume is going north, the profile is going south. And the big differences in the profile is, rather than focus so much on your chronological history and everything you've ever done, it focuses on the things that highlight the skills that you're going to do going forward. So if you spent, 10 years in an industry that has nothing to do with what you want to do as a freelancer, we suggest leaving that out. I mean, there may be some things that you put in from that, but generally, if it's not relevant to the kind of work that you're doing, you want to scrape that off the plate. It's the world of freelancing is fast-paced. Nobody wants to sit there and read your life story unless it applies to how you're going to bring your skill set, your character traits, your knowledge and wisdom to that particular job. And then there's things like your photograph. A lot of people get confused when they come to this part. They say, oh, I need a profile. Well, we have a profile on every account that we've ever set up. That's just kind of what happens. And the profile is set up in a way that, somebody can scan through it. Most people look at it like setting up an account on Amazon or something like that. And it is very different. Your profile is what does the selling of you. And most of us don't like to jump on a phone call and explain why we're good for a job. We don't like to have an email exchange where we're explaining why we're good for a job. What we want to do is have this profile be somewhat promotional and highlighting your very best traits, skills, knowledge, and wisdom, and in their most favorable light. We don't want to exaggerate. We don't want to say, I'm the best for this job, because you don't know that you're the best for the job. I interview hundreds of freelance buyers, and they really get irritated when somebody says, I'm the best person for this job. And I can't tell you how often I see that come across in a profile or a proposal. The point there is they want to look at the facts and they want to make a decision. They're not going to respond to somebody sort of hyping them, saying, I'm the best person. You don't know. There may have been 10 other people that bid on that job, and some of those may have more experience than you. Some of them may be better than that. And the minute that a buyer sees that hype in there that says, I'm the best for the job, they immediately kind of recoil and probably move on to another profile or another proposal until they find somebody who's not trying to sort of bully that person. And if you think about it, that's what it is. When you say, I'm the best person for the job, that's a form of trying to bully somebody to do what it is you want them to do. So the third thing I want to talk about today is developing your excellent communication and client management skills. Now, you may have been an excellent communicator and client manager in your employment. And I know that I was, because people that were clients of mine told me that they appreciated how I communicated, and they appreciated the clarity, and they appreciated me staying in front of the project that we were working on, identifying problems and dealing with stuff. That was very valuable to them. The thing is that working online represents a huge difference to the way you communicate with clients. You're communicating through a network, which right off the bat, I talk to people about this. They say, well, why can't I use email? Why can't I use Slack? Why can't I use this other thing? Well, the answer is that you can use those other things in some cases, but the buyers that you're dealing with use these systems not just as a place to award a contract. They are full management systems of the entire project. And that's where they like to see you upload the deliverables that you're doing. If you write an article, you put it on the site. If you are suggesting a draft or topics to discuss in an article, the tendency would be, well, I'll just email it to the person. And we encourage the people that go through our programs, no, you want to put it on the site, because that's where most buyers manage their projects. And the minute you're offline, the minute or off that line, you're in something that is subject to problems. Mail doesn't get through. I mean, we face this problem every day. I'm sure you see it from time to time. You send an email message, doesn't go through. Where did it go? Well, nobody knows, but it didn't get through. When you communicate through the Upwork system, those people know that they are going in there to manage your project, to manage other people's projects that they're working on. And that's what they want to see. So your communication style has to step up. The other thing that most baby boomers don't realize is when you sit in a room 3 feet from somebody and have a passionate conversation about a topic, it's a very different experience than writing an email that is just, scientifically and proven through many studies. When somebody's looking at, black text on a white screen, the emotional content of that is way lower. And so what happens here is, they tend to underestimate your enthusiasm for the project. They underestimate your interest in the job. And so there's a compensation, there's a learning how to communicate that they need to have so that you can get what you want going. And the communication is so important because that's what forms relationship. If somebody thinks you're short, if somebody thinks you don't explain things, they are not going to want to work with you again. But if you make sure they understand what you're doing, you're in touch, you're responsive when they ask you a question, these are all things that really, raise your level of freelancing service above all others. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. Fingers crossed the camera starts working, or it was just my screen that froze and you've been able to see the camera, but we don't know what's happened. But we'll take another run at the technology for next week and look forward to seeing you here next week or seeing you on our Tuesday night call. Thanks. Take care.